sister, Hayden, on the left, and her mother, Monique Joseph, on the right. This was at a November 1st council meeting after the incident occurred. Hayden defended her little sister at the meeting. She said, and I quote, "She was not only doing something amazing for our environment, she was doing something that made her feel like a hero. Our neighbor across the street decided it would be appropriate to call the police on my sister." Joseph said her daughter was racially profiled and was afraid to leave the house the day after. Racism, intentional or not, is still racism. My neighbor's words put my daughter in harm's way. His words and actions were unconscionable, and the impact of the aftermath of this incident will not be kept secret. The attorney, Lauschi's attorney, Greg Mascara, had this to say. Mrs. Joseph has lived directly across the street from Mr. Lauschi since 2015. They have been friendly neighbors. The morning after the incident, Mr. Lauschi immediately apologized to Mrs. Joseph. Mr. Lauschi told Mrs. Joseph that had he known that it was her daughter that he had seen, he certainly would not have called the police. All right. Obviously, that apology was not accepted, according to the attorney. Joseph says she contacted the Caldwell police chief to try to arrange a private conversation between her and Lauschi, but he declined. The two neighbors have not spoken again. There is a decent thing that came out of this story. Let's put it up. All right. One good thing that came out of this story was that Bobby, the little girl, and her family were recently invited to tour Yale by Dr. Oprah, assistant Yale professor and director of the SASH lab. We want to say a big thank you to that professor, and big thank you to the mother who's continuing to make sure her daughter knows that experience was not the summary of humanity. Doc, thoughts here?
I mean, one thought is you can never really move into the neighborhood, right? You're always going to be seen in a particular way. I mean, there's so much wrong with that call. And maybe he didn't have his distance glasses on, but he sure had his political glasses on. Saying there's a black woman, right? Black girls very often are cast as being older than their age by white society. And then he says, "It's scaring me." Automatically linking blackness with fear. So we've seen this many times before, and it's just really tragic. And of course, in this case, not only was it his neighbor, but the city actually was trying to get people to do exactly what she was doing, right? This is an invasive species, these bugs, and they wanted people to kill the bugs to save the trees. And so she was doing the right thing for the neighborhood. And so, I hope some good comes of this. I just really, after this, as I've been following this story, and I just love the mom's quote that racism, intentional or not, is still racism. I think that's something to really, really keep in mind. And that's really where our interventions have to be.
Yeah, we say it often, implicit bias, hyperaggression bias, it is still bias and it still impacts the world in a negative way. Breaking news, we're gonna go to a break, but breaking news, the officers I reported on initially, the Camden County deputies have now been arrested. They have been charged, all right? We got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
Our system is inherently rigged against the will of the people.
They have 50% of the vote, and in a democracy, they should have 50% of the seats.
But if you live in an insanely gerrymandered district, your vote functionally doesn't matter.
We drew the map in a way that even though we get 50% of the vote, we're gonna get 13 out of the 18 seats.
You don't actually have the ability to translate the will of the voters in your area into actual government policy.
They should not be allowed to gerrymander these districts. We should actually have a democracy.
Been honest with him, like, yeah, I was upset with you and I shouldn't have done it, but instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
All right, we have breaking news. Breaking news about the Camden County deputies who went viral for beating a detainee, jumping him as if they are a gang. Okay, here's your update. 3 officers seen in the viral video of a Camden County detainee being beaten have not been arrested on charges of battery of an inmate and violating oath of office. There it is. Violating oath of office and for the physical attack, according to the Camden County Sheriff's Office. Braxton Massey is one of the deputies. Mason Garrick is another deputy. Ryan Beagle is the 3rd deputy that has been charged. Not only have they been charged, they have been booked into the same county jail where they assaulted Mr. Hobbs criminally. This is the County Public Safety Complex, the same jail that Mr. Hobbs was booked in. The arrests come at the conclusion of an investigation by the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigations. That arrest just happened according to an update we have received. Braxton Massey has been employed with the Sheriff's Office for 6 months, Mason Garrick for 18 months, and Ryan Beagle has been with that county Sheriff's Office for 3 years. All 3 have been fired, all 3 have now been charged. However, the math ain't adding up. I see more than 3. We will get information and provide it as it comes, but that is your current update. All right, Doc, what are your thoughts here?
This happened very quickly. I think, again, as we said at the top of the show, this was clearly a crime. And when somebody's a prisoner or they're a patient, they're under your care, right? You have a responsibility, and very clearly in the images, this is a defenseless person in a prison gown, basically. And so this was just very clearly, from what we've seen, a crime. And hopefully this is the beginning of a story that we'll be hearing a lot more about.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you to those who contacted us when this first happened. Also the whistleblowers who have been in contact with Indisputable. We were the first agency to bring you this, and we will stay on top of it, all right? Doc, always a pleasure having you on the show. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
Well, anytime, it's my honor. I'm on a platform formerly known as Twitter pretty often. And just dyingofwhiteness.com is my website from my book, and you can always contact me through that.
All right, remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.
welcome to the show. So glad you are here, and I'm very excited about the show and also my co-host today. So let me lay out what we're going to talk about. First, Starbucks continues to punish those who unionize and stand up for themselves. There ought to be a law against it. Wait, where's the PRO Act? Calling on the PRO Act. Congress, what are you doing? And meanwhile, Oregon is putting the work in and getting it done. I'm so proud of you, Oregon. Maybe we might make you the capital instead of DC because you're getting the people's work done. And a classic neoliberal moment. Yeah, couldn't let the week go without a WTF neoliberal. And here to help us get this party started, right, is Wosny Lambre, a Rebel HQ contributor. So glad to have you back on the show.
Happy to be back with you, Nina. Super excited.
Yeah, we're excited too. So we're ready to get into this. Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz is cruel, and that's me keeping it PG. Starbucks CEO is continuing his assault on Starbucks workers' rights. Watch this.
I would like to see Starbucks actually live up to what they claim they believe in. You know, like they call us partners, and it feels pretty shallow when they're not willing to see us on an equal level. I know the CEO recently said that we are ruining his life's work, and I think that if his life's work depends on us not getting living wages, then maybe it's good that it's not realized.
Shallow indeed, she's absolutely right. And that, I was with the Starbucks workers in the greater Cleveland area, and they were standing out in very cold conditions. And what she said just summed the situation up quite nicely. So, and now more troubling are the developments taking shape as Schultz's reign of terror continues. Check out this headline from today. Outrage as Starbucks moves to close first unionized shop in its home city of Seattle. Starbucks and Howard Schultz believe they are above the law. They believe they can do whatever they want and get away with it, says Starbucks Workers United. This is unacceptable and will not stand. Many thanks to Jake Johnson of Common Dreams for writing this incredible story. Now, while Starbucks said in a statement that the planned closure is due to, quote, safety and security concerns, workers and union representatives characterized the decision as clearly retaliatory, given the Broadway East and Denny Way's status as the first organized shop in the city where Starbucks was founded and is currently headquartered. Starbucks employees first began their unionization efforts in December of 2021. Here's another headline. Starbucks workers at a Buffalo store unionized in a big symbolic win for labor. The coffee chain's executive sought to persuade workers to reject the union in an election campaign that began in late August. Workers at a second store voted not to unionize, and the result at a third outlet was unclear. Starbucks workers are really on the cutting edge of the 21st century unionist movement, and so glad to see them pushing. It is beyond unfortunate, Waz, that the owner of Starbucks is truly, truly anti-worker.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here, Nina, is what you get in an economy that is so beholden to the idea of maximizing shareholder value. I think if this Starbucks were some mom and pop operation, the people who own the enterprise would be a lot closer in proximity and values and in community with their workers. It'd be like, all right, I might take a small hit to my own bottom line in order to provide for my workers. These people make the business possible. Let's make them whole. However, when it's just nameless, faceless, bloodless shareholders, and all they care about is maximizing their profits at the end of every quarter, there's no way they're gonna get silly things like livable wages and workers being able to send their kids to daycare, being able to work in safe environments, having the proper amount of staff on, not being overworked and underpaid. They're not gonna let those silly things get in the way of maximizing their quarterly profits. And I think that's what we're seeing here. When you see an extreme measure where it's like It's not that Starbucks, who sells me $7 coffee, is not making money and tons of it. It's a matter of principle. We can't let our workers think they could ever interfere with our bottom line, no matter what is affecting them and their own lives on a daily basis.
No, that is it. You definitely hit the nail on the head. Those little silly things like being able to have a decent life. Let's not let any of that get in the way. And this next headline, Starbucks workers, as they were unionized, and they did fear retaliation. Starbucks workers have unionized at record speed. Many fear retaliation now. Now, Schultz has turned those fears into reality. The labor board finds Starbucks illegally retaliated against union organizers. And I gotta say, the National Labor Relations Board is doing a good job in pointing out that Starbucks is in the wrong here. We just need stronger enforcement. We need some force to let Schultz know that he will not get away with that. Hello, federal government, I'm talking to you. This next headline, Starbucks kept list of pro-union employees to punish, ex-manager says. And it's so good that the truth is coming out. My maternal grandmother used to say that you can put truth in the river 5 days after lie, truth gon' catch up. And it is a beautiful thing that truth is catching up, and that Howard Schultz and the upper management of Starbucks, they are being exposed. David Almond, who used to manage several Starbucks stores in the Buffalo area, said in testimony under oath in August that he had been read a list of workers that the higher ups at Starbucks suspected were pro-union and told to comb through their records to find a non-union issue for reprimanding them. Managers would sift through the list together to find seemingly minor infractions, Almond said, such as wearing purple pants for which to punish workers or partners, as the company calls them. And this headline, Starbucks says employees getting new benefits, but not at stores that are unionizing. All of this is wrong. We understand that is wrong, Wise. I don't understand why the federal government is not coming barreling down on Howard Schultz.
Yeah, these are clear and obvious intimidation tactics. You don't have to be some expert in labor and management relations to see that this is just pure thuggery on their part. And again, I think traditionally, way back in the days when we drafted these laws, there was this idea that there would be some kind of good faith negotiation where the powers that be open their books and they'd be like, look, we're making $4 a month, to make overhead and this and this and that. It costs us $350, and we're gonna take home this, and this is what it's gonna be. There is none of that here. Like, they cannot justify not increasing the wages and benefits of these workers after posting record profits, not revenues, profits in the record books for this company and corporation. And so, of course, they resort to these dirty tricks and tactics because they don't have a leg to stand on.
That is so right. And I like how you characterize it as pure thuggery indeed. Now, these employees are just simply asking for what they deserve, as Waz laid out, safe work conditions, better pay, better work conditions. How about that? Is that them reaching too high, asking for too much? At Starbucks, unionized baristas want a boost to the current starting salary of $15 per hour, more staffing where it is needed, and more say over their schedule. They also want better benefits. I say give it to them, they deserve that. And it's not like the company cannot afford it. As we are in this discussion, we want you all to know that Starbucks is not being asked to do something that it is not able to do. It is not like the company is about to go belly up. They rolling in dough, baby. Let's put up these stats. Starbucks annual revenue for 2022 was $32 billion, okay? Over $32 billion, a 10.98% increase from 2021. We might as well say an 11% increase. Starbucks annual revenue in 2021 was almost $30 billion, a 23% increase from 2020. Now, Starbucks annual revenue went, took a little a little dip, a little bit. 23.5 though wise is still not bad. An 11.28% decline from 2019. But as we can see, Starbucks is doing mighty fine. Underline it, bold it, exclamation point. And there really is no excuse for their partners. The partners that help them make the record profits should be treated in this way. And Schultz himself, well, you guessed it, he's a billionaire. The 68-year-old businessman and author is approximately worth $4 billion as per Forbes. The businessman made most of his billion-dollar fortune thanks to Starbucks. And so if he's making this fortune thanks to Starbucks, that means he's making this fortune thanks to the partners in the stores every single day. And he should want them to reap some of the benefits of the bounty that Starbucks has. This is pure unadulterated greed on display on so many levels. We are not confused. This is not hard. Howard Schultz is greedy and he doesn't want to share any of the profits with the people who helped him make it. Now, if you want to support these brave baristas, visit Starbucks, visit SB Workers United on Twitter. And let's put that up so people can see how they can support them. Please support them and show them your love. They need your support. And you should write to Howard Schultz, tweet at him, Instagram, message in a bottle, whatever you need to do to let him know how disgusted you are with the way that he is treating the partners who help Starbucks make all the profits that they make. And they also helped him become a billionaire. Let's do that. Oregon, good news. Woo, I love a good news story. Whilst we got one, Oregon is doing the daggone thing. So Oregon is on a roll with a good news as Governor Kate Brown prepares to leave office. She's tackling the war on drugs. Check out this headline. Oregon governor pardons 45,000 marijuana offenders in bid to right the wrongs of a failed drug war. No one deserves to be forever saddled with the impacts of a conviction for simple possession of marijuana, a crime that is no longer on the books in Oregon. And this is coming from outgoing Democratic Governor Kate Brown. You better say that, governor, do that thing. She doing that. Now, this comes on the heels of President Biden pardoning 6,500 federal marijuana offenses in October. We got more because most of those offenses are basically on the state and local level. It also continues to grow a trend in progressive legislation across the country, and the state of Oregon is at the top. They're blazing a trail. Check out these headlines from the midterms. Measure 111 passes, giving Oregonians a constitutional right to access affordable health care. Again, Oregon setting the tone, baby. How about this one? Oregon voters on stricter gun laws, the only ballot measure nationwide that addresses gun violence. This is just one step forward combating the disastrous war on drugs, and more can certainly be done. This next headline, the federal government should decriminalize marijuana. An ideal federal marijuana policy would reduce arrests while supporting a highly regulated marketplace. Waz?
Yeah, I think, I live in the state of California, and you go all over the place, places like Nevada, wherever you go where they've legalized weed, it makes absolutely zero sense that we would be jailing people for stuff that is just completely legal in certain patches of the country. That's a one. And two, like that pardoning law, I really think is important because it addresses a wrong that's occurred to these people in the sense that you get a felony or, what people in my neighborhood would call an F on your name. You got to declare that whenever you apply for jobs, and the contradiction and hypocrisy of, we believe that, all right, we sent these people to jail for weed, which is BS, but whatever. We finally let them out. Allegedly, they're rehabilitated. We stick a felony conviction on their record, and now employers have the right to withhold employment from them, thereby making it hard for them to become upstanding citizens again. So this is a beautiful step in the right direction. And like you just said, Nina, obviously, we need a federal lift of the prohibition on marijuana so my weed heads could toke up in peace and not worried about getting locked up, Nina.
Yes, all over the country, baby. Let the puff pass begin. So, recent research has shown, because people make all these excuses about why it cannot be done. It can be done. It should be done. We know that the war on drugs had the greatest negative impact on communities of color, particularly the African American community paid a high penalty for that war on drug. Our brown sisters and brothers and family and friends, the same thing. We need to turn this around. Thank God some states in this union are doing it, but we need the feds to jump on in here. This ain't complicated. This is not hard. Just go ahead and decriminalize, deschedule marijuana. It should not be on the schedule with heroin. And there has not been this big increase in states where marijuana is legalized for recreational use. There has not been this big explosion of people who wouldn't ordinarily be attracted to using marijuana like some people thought. So recent research has shown that legalizing marijuana reduces violence and trafficking associated with the illegal drug trade, thereby reducing the power and wealth of cartels and drug gangs. I see you want to jump in here, Wos.
It bears mentioning all the time. Like we did this already. We started a prohibition on alcohol, which invented gangs and a criminal underworld that didn't exist before it. People dying in the streets of places like New York and Chicago, and all of this corruption that went on behind that. We lifted it, and guess what? Nobody dies because they're trying to maintain a turf war from their bootlegging operation. It's over, right? So like we did this already. Now we're doing it with weed, and guess what? Now that it's legal and you can do this through permits and regulations, like nobody's shooting each other over the trade of weed anymore. I mean, this is just so obvious what the answer is. And by my estimation, just anecdotally, I don't know if this is scientifically true, Nina. Only thing I've seen increase is like Doritos sales and Ben and Jerry's. It's harder to find it at the supermarket these days.
I don't know from experience yet, but I hear you get the munchies. That's what I'm told by the folks who partake. And speaking of Ben and Jerry's, Wos, I just had the incredible Ben Cohen, one of the co-founders of Ben and Jerry's, on the show.
Oh, wow, a legend.
Almost a month ago, and he tells this story all the time, Wos, about how him and his friends partook in a little puff pass and got caught by the police. And the moral of his story is this: they got charged with littering. That was the charge. They were littering. That's what they were charged with. And he always says that had he been black, it would have been a whole different story, and he might not have been one of the founders of Ben and Jerry. So he recognizes the racial dynamic. He's out there fighting the good fight against this too, and it is such a beautiful thing. But you're absolutely right. The Doritos and the Ben and Jerry sales will go up. Now, on top of reducing drug-related crime, which Wos just laid out, legalizing marijuana has shown to be a meaningful avenue of raising tax revenue. Hello, government, you need more tax revenue to be in service of the people. For example, Colorado's legal marijuana industry has brought in over $1 billion in tax revenues to the state since it abandoned prohibition. I mean, everything that you just said, Wos, there is a way to do this and to ensure. And besides the tax revenue, I want to make sure that these states and also the federal government, because it is going to happen, it's just a matter of time. Do not forget the financial benefits of not only legalizing this, but ensuring that Black and brown people get first dibs on the ownerships and the programs that come from that legalization, since they bore the brunt of the war on drugs. We cannot allow big companies, big corporations to take over, like the cigarette industry or even the alcohol industry, Wos, because that's exactly what they would want to do. They didn't suffer any of the pain. And in the states where it is legalized, it is hard pressed to have Black people own those businesses. I know that in Colorado, Simply Pure with Wanda James, the first Black woman to own her own cannabis company, but it is hard because it is very expensive and the rules are so harsh. So to all of the policymakers out there, understand this: federal government, you are behind the time. And when you do get with the times, because you will eventually, the people in the streets are pushing, make sure that there are stipulations on this to ensure that the Black community in particular is in on the financial side, since they bore the burden of the war on drugs. And who's better suited to lead this challenge than the man who was one of the authors of the crime bill, and that is President Joe Biden. He can make amends for that by descheduling cannabis and legalizing it and pushing and making sure that as companies are created, that Black and brown people are right there, front and center. Speaking of front and center, I want you to stay right there. Don't you go anywhere. Waz and we will be right back. Stay there.
Welcome to the Happy Hour, everybody. After a week of soul-crushing news, we break out the good stuff. Good news, good videos, good people, and of course, drink good alcohol. That's the worst thing I've ever had.
This is the best show.
Full disclosure, we did do a shot right before the show began. It says,
Let's
flamingo.
flamingo.
The reason you had trouble with that word is it's not a word.
Okay.
This is the one of everything.
I got a rash. Could I just put it on that to see if it'll take it off?
What did you used to think this was?
Bull.
Drink it, swallow it,
No.
spit it. Oh, that's needed after a day like this. Cheers to Brett Ehrlich. Climax. Uranus smells like farts. Because of course it does. This is the worst sketch ever of a perp. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They found the guy. This is Sophie's super happy dog story of the week.
This dog is so precious and deserves the world. I'm just not drinking that beer.
Here's my dog. This is Onyx.
Yeah, I would just say that he's exotic because he's not your traditional dog. Yeah, still 12 out of 10 because they're all good.
Well, if that made you happy, just wait till you see the best thing ever of the week. There is a woman who moves like a horse.
Why do I want to go home and try this?
We're actually going to show you the running butthole challenge right now. What's happening?
No, that's just wrong. Every way.
And we'll see you next time.
Hey Dave, as you can probably see, Skype froze.
Yes.
Frozen crashed.
You know, I'm watching that documentary on the Vietnam War, and there was a TV journalist in the middle of some tiny little village in Vietnam doing live TV as the soldiers were burning the Vietnamese huts, and it didn't crash. And that was 1965, and he was in Vietnam.
Welcome back, my favorite part of the show. Let's see what our viewer comments are, shall we? Our TYT member, Mountain Dragon, Nina, the wonderful, the powerful, and the beautiful. You better say that again, Mountain Dragon. Triple threat. So good to see Big Waz on as well. Keep up the good fight. Thank you, Mountain Dragon. I am smiling, as you can see, from ear to ear. And on Twitch, Overseer Dixon, hey Overseer Dixon, says, unbossed theme is now my official last half hour of work alarm, and I love it. Oh my God, that is so special, Overseer Dixon. And on YouTube Super Chat, Laugh Anyway says, thankful for Nina Turner and her grandma. Oh, thank you, Laugh Anyway. I'm grateful for her too. Her spirit lives on in me. It's what we call in the African-American community, mother wit. She was full of it. So I am gonna tell many grandma stories along this journey. And let us not forget to hashtag WeAreBG in support of Brittany Griner. She is still not home. Thanksgiving is coming up. I can't even imagine how her family is feeling right now, how she is feeling. We must continue to pray and send the well wishes. And then the feds hopefully need to keep pushing to bring her home, and other people who are outside of the federal government who are working to do just that. So please keep the Griner family in your thoughts and in your prayers. And do not forget to go to tyt.com/relief. That is tyt.com/relief, and show some love for our sisters and brothers and family and friends in Jackson, Mississippi. Let us do that. Together we can do that. Again, Mr. President has me saying, WTF, neoliberal.
We will now kneel.
Miss Cinema, no.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black. The votes are in. They've been counted and verified. There's no ballot stuffing. There's no foul play. The only red wave this season is going to be a German Shepherd commander who knocks over the cranberry sauce on our table.
I was talking over the daggone sock. Oh, here we go. The president. Look, a lot of people are suffering right now, and making light of it just does not make sense to me. Thanksgiving is this week, and for some families, it means making a traditional dish with those that you love. And for some families, it does not. Some people just don't have it, and not everyone will get a chance to celebrate this year. We know that inflation is surging. People are finding it harder and harder and harder to make ends meet. So here are the percent increases for Thanksgiving dishes. Here we go. Right here, turkey up by 24%, mashed potatoes 20%, salad 9%, cranberries 18%, and pie 75%. Now, why is that pie being up by 75%? That should just be criminal right there. Just, I can't even. I can't deal with it all. Why? Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the victory lap over the midterms is getting tired. I'm not gonna lie, and obviously you and I are both happy that the Republicans didn't completely bomb them in the House and take over the Senate. Like, that's great. I think more importantly, it's something that portends to a sign that there are actually consequences for the actions of extremist right wingers. That's nice to know, like that you actually have a price to pay for being as extremist as some of the stuff around abortion and the craziness with the election, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the Dems, it's not as if they've acquitted themselves in such a way that is like exemplary. They got, man, the stuff that's happening to them down in Florida is scary. The losses they took in New York State, my home state or ex-home state where I'm from, which were greatly impacted by corruption and foolishness from the Democratic Party apparatus, right? Like, these folks need to get on one accord about what it is they think they're gonna do to lead the country forward. And the idea that Joe Biden is taking a victory lap and tap dancing up there is ridiculous.
It is, and later in the show, we are gonna highlight Dr. Reverend Barber's letter to the Democratic Party, and he highlights exactly what you said, which is, slow your roll. You guys are getting a little too happy about something that
too big for your britches.
That's it, too big for your britches. That's what grandma would say, don't get too big. Don't get too big for your britches. There's another grandma saying. And let's check out some of the most expensive places in the United States to have a Thanksgiving meal. And we see that Boston, Cambridge, urban Honolulu, New York, New Jersey City, Seattle, Tacoma, Washington, Arlington, Alexandria area, and San Francisco. And look what it is, what the average meal costs. And sometimes some of us may look at those numbers and say that's not a lot. No, it is a lot when people are barely trying to scrape by. We just did a show earlier this week that showed how the heating prices, fuel heating prices for homes are going up. And it is really hard for people to live these days. And just because folks are surmounting the hurdle does not mean that there was not a hurdle there. Let me say that one more time. Just because people are surmounting the hurdle does not mean that they did not have a hurdle to jump. Some people are just opting out of eating because groceries are more expensive. Now, we need food, we need water, and we need air. Why is this happening in this hegemonic nation? This headline, it could be cheaper to dine out on Thanksgiving this year as CPI, food at home prices soar. Now, who ever heard of that? Usually it is the opposite, but that is what is happening right now. And while Thanksgiving is a fun tradition, we need to remember this, that people are going hungry. They are. That people can't heat their homes. They can't. And people can't afford to go to the doctor. They cannot. In fact, some US states opted out of nearly $4 billion in emergency funds that would have helped the poorest residents. Yeah, you heard me right, opted out of helping people. The US struggles to pay for food. No matter how well you budget, you will run out of something. So people going hungry it should be a non-starter in the United States of America. It makes no sense to me. And furthermore, 10 million Americans are spending 50% of their income on housing costs. Let's put up this chart. How much of their incomes American renters spend on housing costs in 2020? And you see it right there. Now, when people are spending that much money on housing, and then you add in the other expenses, that's really not living. That's just barely scraping by. So, Mr. President, please take this seriously. We are in a crisis moment, and this is no time to celebrate and to be backslapping. Kansas or Houston, what am I calling Kansas for? Houston, we have a problem. Yeah, we do. We need to get it straightened out. Wise, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. Look, you want the president to show a certain level of levity every now and again to the people, but I'd like to see him point out what his opponents and his enemies in the other party, how they get this stuff wrong and what he's trying to do to make things better for folks this holiday season. Obviously, the cost of food is just crazy, and nobody who watches TYT will be surprised to learn that a lot of it is price gouging from mega corporations who are just like, oh, there's inflation happening? Oh, snap, we need to jack up our prices. Our prices aren't jacked up enough. Let's take advantage of this wave. And yeah, people are getting killed with those prices. And just the last thing I would say to folks out there, a lot of times for many of us, the holidays is a time to celebrate, to be with family and all of that. Some people don't have a lot of family. Some people have lost family, and the holidays is a reminder of that. So, if you get an inkling that anybody in your life or close to you might not have people to hang out with for the holidays, reach out to them, tell them you save them a seat and a plate, because it's the kind of things we need to do to support each other.
Yeah, amen to that, Wise. Holidays are not always happy for everybody. And as a matter of fact, suicide rates go up around this time of year, especially around Christmas, because people are so stressed and depressed. And when you add the pandemic to it, it just exacerbates every other thing that people just go through naturally, and also with inflation. So Wise is exactly right. Let us remember the people who have greater needs than us, shall we? Kari Lake, I'm sorry, you guys, I keep bringing her up on this show, but crazy, good can never sleep because good can never take a vacation because evil never sleeps. Kari lost her race, but she just won't stop spreading disinformation. This woman is a disinformation machine. Take a look at this tweet. Arizona's current mood. Yeah, James Woods. I'm ashamed to say I would not give this fellow a second thought if I passed him in the streets. Having watched his speech, however, I am now in awe of his eloquence and his patriotism. Maricopa County is the new Zimbabwe. James Woods, you know what? Oh Lord, you know what? I ain't gonna go there. I am not gonna go there today. So on the surface level, it looks like some typical right-wing BS. But I don't want you to be fooled. I want you really to watch this from the tweet.
Good morning. Once again, the eyes of the world are upon Maricopa County for another botched election. Am I here to accuse you of stealing the vote? Heavens no, for that would make me a terrorist, wouldn't it? Now ask yourself the question, which is more valuable, your vote or your money? Now ask a lobbyist that same question. Now ask a campaign manager that question. Now ask Mark Zuckerberg that question. question, which is more valuable, your money or your vote or your country or this world or the corruption that is taking over every single county in this nation? And then you look into your own soul and you look back at yourself in the mirror and realize that you are the cancer that is tearing this nation apart. Good day.
All righty then. Yep, that happens. And I just gotta go back to James Woods for a minute. You know, the insult on Zimbabwe wasn't necessary. That's why I had to collect myself. I was gonna tell him where he could go. But okay, so what you just watched was Matt Baker alleging voter fraud to the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. Now, this isn't the first time that Mr. Baker has been in the spotlight. Like, not the first time. He was recently on InfoWars with Alex Jones, and he claimed robots are trying to control humanity. He also went viral in this clip back in 2021. Let's roll the tape.
4 feet of marble that holds you above high in this chamber will help you from the fate of humanity which you are unleashing. No, it won't. Your children and your children's children will be subjugated. They will be asked, how many vaccines have you had? Have you been a good little Nazi? Hail Fauci!
Lord have mercy. And these are the kind of people that Kari Lake is aligning with and pushing. Wise, I know you are. You having a good time with this one.
Look, Kari Lake is a deranged person, or just a plain sellout, soulless, gutless, power hungry creep, right? I think that's obvious. She's going down with her lie. She's going down with her fantasies. She's going down with embracing the fringes and the most absurd entities and people involved with the right wing. That goes without saying. But this brother, man, if he ever wanted to, he could have a career in pro wrestling. He just cut one of the best wrestling promos I have ever seen in my life. Like Macho Man Randy Savage would watch that and blush. I promise you, Nina. Like this guy, you can't tell me this dude isn't a huge WWE fan or ECW or WCW. I know I'm old and I'm washed, but yeah, this guy reminds me of a wrestler. Honestly, like he was really cutting the promo right there.
Wise, I don't know even what to do with that. You are so right, and you are not old, and you are not washed by any stretch of the imagination. Hilarious. You're right. That's really what he's up to. Thank you for breaking that down for us, because I thought the man, his veins was popping out of his hands. I was worried about him.
Let me tell you something, brother.
911, what's your emergency? Come get this dude. Okay, he needs your help. It was coming down to that. So Kari Lake is in fact the loser, and she lost, but refuses to concede. Let's put up the numbers again. The woman lost. She needs to go ahead and give it up, but she's not. Instead, Kari Lake doubles down on allegations of a botched election in Arizona. Let's put up that smug shot of her right there. Kari Lake doubles down on allegations of botched election in Arizona. Arizonians, it is not true. Katie Hobbs has won. Kari Lake needs to find a new line of business. Wise, I will not be surprised. This woman is going to be somebody's vice presidential running mate on the GOP side. I guarantee that is going to happen. Just watch it. You heard it here first on Unbossed. We'll be right back after these messages. Hopefully take in all of that WWF? Wrestling,
yes, that's right.
Energy. Waz called it. That's what the brother did. That was his audition tape. We'll be right back.
We're very honest that we're progressives. We call the Young Turks home of progressives, and we support progressive candidates.
There has been this reemergence of political activism, especially among young people.
This weekend was the second Women's March, both across the US and across the world. So these people are not simply marching, they're not simply talking, they're also running for office. And when they do run, they're gonna make a difference.
Joe Crowley is congressman from New York. He's very powerful. Why? He raised a lot of money. But there's someone finally challenging him.
We need to have representation that advocates as fiercely for working class people as possible from this seat.
If candidates like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez even get a little bit of media attention outside of what the Young Turks does, they have an excellent chance of winning. She's gonna win. She's gonna win.
68% reporting.
The majority of Americans want Medicare for all. So I don't care what you and your corporate cronies want. What I care about is what the American people want.
We believe in total change. Everything runs on donor money. And that is what we will fight. And that is exactly why they don't like us.
We're having fun. It's election night.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has defeated Joe Crowley.
Here we go again.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Down goes Crowley. Down goes Crowley. Down goes Manafort. Down goes Cohen. Populist left wing with a gigantic victory in Mexico.
Senator Gillibrand, you have made a pledge to no longer accept corporate PAC money.
Women came out in record numbers in the primaries. They said you'll be lucky to get one candidate. We now have 12 that have won their primaries. Bezos and Amazon announcing that they are going to go to a 15-hour minimum wage.
We're making progress. Let's keep going.
Many of these women made history.
The biggest victories, all women of color. Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, Sharice Davids and Deb Haaland. For a long time, we have not had progressives in power. It's going to be something to behold.
Welcome to Happy Hour, everybody. After a week of soul-crushing news, we break out the good stuff. Good news, good videos, good people, and of course, drink good alcohol. That's the worst thing I've ever had.
This is the best show.
Full disclosure, we did do a shot right before the show began. It says,
let's
flamingo.
Flamingo.
The reason you had trouble with that word is it's not a word.
Okay.
This is the one of everything.
I've got a rash. Could I just put it on that to see if it'll take it off?
What did you used to think this was?
Bull.
Drink it, swallow it,
No.
spit it. Oh, that's needed after a day like this. Cheers to Brett Ehrlich. Climax. Uranus smells like farts. Because of course it does. This is the worst sketch ever of a perp. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They found the guy. This is Sophie's super happy dog story of the week.
This dog is so precious and deserves the world. I'm just not drinking that beer.
Here's my dog. This is Onyx.
Yeah, I would just say that he's exotic because he's not your traditional dog. Yeah, still 12 out of 10 because they're all good.
Well, if that made you happy, just wait till you see the best thing ever of the week. There is a woman who moves like a horse.
Why do I want to go home and like try this?
We're actually going to show you the running butthole challenge right now. What's happening? No, that's just wrong. Every way. And we'll see you next time.
The rest of the news media says you should not fight for positive change. If you do, you're not really a reporter or a journalist, because reporters and journalists don't care what happens. I don't agree. That's not written anywhere. That's not a law. It's just a rule that they invented so that reporters didn't actually challenge the people that are in power. Well, we don't agree with that. We think we should challenge the people in power, that actually makes you a better journalist, not a worse one.
Welcome back. We're at our viewers' comments yet again. We have TYT members. Eclectic says, instead of doing photo ops with a turkey, maybe Biden should be holding press conferences demanding Congress pass a living wage so people can actually afford to eat the turkey. Let's underscore, bold, underline, message in the bottle, what you just said, Elected. So damn true. On Twitch, Gomez 420 says, the first Thanksgiving I had in my apartment, I brought a big dinner and fed the homeless. It was my first year not homeless in 5 years. Oh my God, Gomez 420. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us and just reaching back and and helping people and remembering what it was like for you. Oh my God, just thank you for doing that. And many more of us can do that as well. I remember, my mom is no longer here anymore. She died when she was 42 years young, unfortunately. But I do remember as a younger person, us going downtown in Cleveland, feeding the homeless on a regular basis. And it definitely kept my family really grounded. So thank you, Gomez 420, for sharing that story with us. And on YouTube Super Chat, Anthony says, love Nina. I'm sending that love right back, Anthony, baby. And loving all of you, all of our viewers and our subscribers. Thank you for what you do for us and with us. TYT would not be able to bring you this independent news and be able to be free to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth if it were not for our members and our subscribers. So thank you so much for your support of the TYT network, and definitely thank you for your support of Unbossed. Oh, Elon Musk, again, I must sigh. I'm trying not to sigh so much, y'all, but this one right here is either sigh or cuss. So I'm gonna try to sigh a little more, can keep this PG. Twitter Africa employees accuse Elon Musk of discrimination over severance terms. That is the headline. This man just cannot help himself, I am convinced. So laid off employees at Twitter's Africa headquarters are accusing Twitter of deliberately and recklessly flouting the law of Ghana and trying to silence and intimidate them after they were fired. And I want to thank CNN, Larry over there at CNN, for this great reporting on this story. And the employees have hired an attorney, this is according also to the CNN reporting, to deal with the company to insist that it complies with Ghana's labor laws and to provide them with additional severance pay and benefits. They have also petitioned the Ghanaian government to compel Twitter to adhere to the laws of Ghana on redundancy and offer the employees a fair and just negotiation and redundancy pay, according to a letter to the country's chief labor officer obtained by CNN. The letter further states, it is clear that Twitter Inc. under Mr. Elon Musk is either deliberately or recklessly flouting the laws of Ghana, is operating in bad faith and in a manner that seeks to silence and intimidate former employees into accepting any terms unilaterally thrown at them. Now, according to Elon Musk via a tweet, everyone exited was offered 3 months of severance, which is 50% more than legally required. Man, you are such a scholar and a gentleman, Elon Musk, not. Now, Twitter informed the Ghana-based employees in early November that they would be paid until their last day of employment, which is on December the 4th. And they will continue to receive full pay and benefits during the 30-day notice period. Now, we all know that time goes really fast, but employees of Twitter in Accra, Ghana, told CNN that the notice was vague and overall rubbish, not in compliance with Ghanaian law. The employees are distressed, humiliated, intimidated by this turn of events. There are non-Ghanaian employees, some with young families, who moved here to take up jobs and have now been left unceremoniously in the lurch with no provision for repatriation expenses and no way to communicate with Twitter Inc. and discuss or plead their case. This is also the notice, part of the notice that was given to Ghana's chief labor officer. Was, big was.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. This is just how the system works, Nina. The guy bought the company. He basically gets to now unilaterally do whatever it is he wants, right? With it, he's allowed to tank it into the ground. Although, I will note that he's not really. He had to take out a decent amount of loans to buy this thing, and his creditors, if they wanted to, could step in and just fire the guy if they really felt like it. So he is beholden to the creditors. However, for the most part, he's gonna get to do whatever it is that he wants to the current and former Twitter employees. There's nothing in his past that's shown that he has a measure of grace, that he takes heed to any good advice or counsel from anybody other than his own id. And so I don't think any of us should be surprised by how he's handled these layoffs and firings across the board, whether it be here or abroad. I don't know how anybody with any talent and self-respect or self-worth will want to go to Twitter. I think people with not a lot of options will want to go work for Elon. And I think he still has a lot of fans with the cult of personality that he's kind of crafted, ironically, through Twitter. But this is just a black mark for this guy's career as a quote unquote entrepreneur, whatever we're calling this dude. But nobody should be surprised, especially like stuff he's done with Tesla, discrimination lawsuits out the wazoo over there. This is his MO.
It is his MO. Let's just go ahead and call him a tyrant, because that's exactly what he is. And he is breaking laws all over the place. And I hope that Ghana holds him accountable. We need to hold him accountable over here in these United States of America as well. We will definitely keep you all posted on this story. We're not going to let this go. Now, the great Reverend Dr. William Barber sent a letter to DNC leadership, basically saying to them, wait, not so fast. And maybe the president didn't know that the Reverend sent a letter before he was pardoning those turkeys. But the Reverend is going deep here from a moral liberation, black liberation theology about what should be happening. Now, his letter appears in The Nation magazine. Please go and read the entire letter. Waz and I are gonna highlight some of the letter and have a discussion about it. And then next week, his letter to the RNC leadership. So he's not leaving anybody out on this, but let's just take a look at how the Reverend took us to church.
In order for America to be America, there's some impurities we got to remove. Racism is an impurity. Anti-unionism is a impurity. Meanness is an impurity. Hate is an impurity. Poverty is an impurity. Don't you understand how afraid they are of our unity?
Ooh, baby, I was up here going, yes, because I'm a church girl, baby, 7 days a week. My mama made us go to church 8 days a week. I used to say 8 days a week. She added a day. That was serious. Yeah, Reverend took us to church talking about the impurities. So let's look at some of what the Reverend had to say in his letter to Democratic leadership. Shall we? Yes, we shall. And here it is. Dear DNC leadership, I am writing because of my deep love for this country and my sincere belief that we cannot move forward towards a more perfect union in this moment without your decisive action. I am glad that he coming at him strong. Here we go. I write in obedience to the Bible's commandment that our first priority in public life is love and care for the least of these. He's quoting Matthew 25. This tradition further exhorts all people of faith to say to the rulers and political leadership, this is God's miracle. Attend to matters of justice, set things right between people, rescue victims from their exploiters. Don't take advantage of the homeless, the orphan, the widow. Stop the murdering. Jeremiah 22. Reverend, you better go ahead and preach that sermon. Since the initial midterm results, now this is it, baby. I just need you all to wrap your whole body around this. This is it right here. Since the initial midterm results were reported last week, I have heard leading Democrats gleefully celebrating that they held off a quote red wave in this election cycle. While I agree that there is some relief and joy in seeing Americans reject the most egregious forms of extremism, I am troubled by the satisfaction many seem to have with a political reality that will lead to continued policy violence. I am writing to sincerely ask the party to also critically reflect on its approach to building a governing coalition that can pass policies to lift from the bottom so everyone can rise. Reverend, you better preach that sermon. Yeah, do that. Also in the letter, the Reverend talks about the fact that black women, that black people overwhelmingly vote for this Democratic Party, don't get a whole lot for it. And he uses the midterm elections to paint this point that more black folks ran for the US Senate than ever in the country's history. He also points out the fact that there will not be any black women in the United States Senate. There are no black women governors right now, never has been in the history of this country. Reverend lays it out. He says, so why y'all, Wise, as you said, why y'all tap dancing and skipping and acting like y'all can take a victory lap when you failed? You absolutely failed. Let's go ahead and put up this next one. I had to give some Turnerism on that. And rather than telling a victory story that erases the plight of our democracy and the impending threat in the cases before our Supreme Court, we should tell the truth of how much worse these losses of representative democracy and policy violence will become if we don't make it a moral and political imperative to ensure passage of the John Lewis for the People Act and a restored Voting Rights Act right now, before any more days pass, to ensure that there is a realizable fundamental right to vote in this country for all. Wise, this is just an excerpt, but you see it got my blood boiling, baby. I am ready to get out of my seat. What say you on what the Reverend is laying out? He preaching this.
Yeah, he's hitting on some key points. And I think the biggest key, what he talked about, is what we're doing for poverty and just the wage stagnation that we see all over the place. All of those things are problems that are fixable because we've fixed them before. And by the way, we did it by government assistance, government programs, okay? Like the GI Bill, the freaking American suburbs, all of this stuff, all of these things we did by paying for it from the federal government. I think, people forget this, man, but Donald Trump got really popular after sending folks those checks. Same for Joe Biden. They put Warnock and Ostroff in office to send people money, direct relief for folks. Obviously, we see the powers that be trying to give us, this banana in the tailpipe inflation crap, but I don't think people are falling for it. Honestly, people understand that it wasn't just $1,400, $3,000 that has the economy and inflation. It's a lot of it is corporate greed mixed with understandable problems that come from logistics and stuff like that throughout the course of the pandemic. So yeah, man, do the right thing, Joe Biden, Mr. 41% approval rating. Yeah, like do something to get people excited, sir, instead of taking victory laps.
Sir, yes, do that instead of taking victory laps on other people suffering. Sir, do that. Wise, absolutely. Oh, the Reverend Dr. Barber got me fired up, baby. Yes, he does. And please go to The Nation magazine and read the rest of the Reverend's letter. Next week, we will highlight what he had to say to the Republicans. See, we ain't letting nobody off the hook here. Not here, nobody gets off the hook. Oh, we're going to our Jawbone. Speaking of truth, the Reverend spoke a type of truth, and I'm glad that he does. I hope he continues to do this. Today's Jawbone is coming from George Carlin. He was an American stand-up comic, an actor, an author, and a social critic. He really made us think about the conditions in this country. Well, today I want to highlight this quote from George. And he says, well, if crime fighters fight crime and firefighters fight fire, what do freedom fighters fight? They never mention that part to us, do they? And while I found this is so short, but just so profound, because what do freedom fighters fight? They fight injustice. And rolling into this quote from talking about what the Reverend Dr. William Barber is doing, I mean, it is just perfect. What do freedom fighters fight? They fight injustice in all of its forms. And we need more freedom fighters. And you don't have to have a fancy title to be the difference, to be the change, to make a difference. All you have to do is put a little extra on your ordinary so that extraordinary things can happen. While George Carlin, nobody could quite indict the conditions in this country quite like him in a very comedic way.
One of the greats, always speaking truth to power. And definitely an American treasure. One of the good whites, as they say.
Ooh, wise. There are many.
One of the good ones. He's one of the good ones. Yes, there are many, but he's one of them.
Yeah. No, he definitely was a strong social critic, and his voice, sometimes people don't, appreciate what he had to say and how he made us think about the conditions that we have to navigate. What do freedom fighters fight? They fight injustice in all of its forms. And all of us, each and every one of us, can be a freedom fighter in our own right. I'm asking you to join the ranks of the freedom fighters. We're gonna fight for what is just, for what is right, and for what is good. Oh, I wanna thank you all for being here with us today. I will not be here tomorrow, but Jessica Burbank will be in the house with Ben. They got you covered tomorrow. I wanna wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving, and it is not lost on me the fact that for some, having a happy Thanksgiving is a huge mountain to climb. But I am lifting the people in this nation and in this world. I love you all. Thank you so much for being with us. And you know what I want you to do? I want you to keep the faith, but more importantly, I want you to keep the fight. I'll see you all back here next week.